So today we're going to be looking at glasshouses at Alton Towers, but not this one, the Grand Conservatory. We're going to actually be looking at the lost glasshouses of Alton Towers, the ones that don't exist anymore. So this is the first lost glasshouse that we'll have a look at, and this one was across the other side of what's known as the Temple Lake, or the Lily Pond, which is just here, not far from the Gothic Prospect Tower, or Gothic Temple, that's it's called sometimes. And noting a visit in around 1831, the garden writer J.C. Loudon actually said, and this is a quote, "Beyond the range of conservatories is a lake, and beyond the lake another conservatory with curious wings and statues." And if you look at the plans that I'm going to be putting up on screen, you can see that that conservatory would have been over the far side of this lake, not right at the end, but sort of slightly offset to the right, sort of in the middle right of this picture now. Okay, so this is a map that was produced between around 1880 and 1900, just to get our bearings. In the sort of circled red area in the top right hand corner, that's the first lost glasshouse that we're looking at the moment. And circled in blue, that's the Temple Lake that I was just standing sort of at the left hand side of in the previous clip. And then if we look at the old map on the left compared to the modern day map on the right, the red building would be the lost glasshouse, and then you've obviously got the lake in blue at the bottom left, and then running around the edge of the lake you've got a yellow path, and that would be the modern day haunted hollow sort of path running around the top of there. And then the white line going off towards the top right, that is the modern day path going up towards Gloomy Wood. So you can sort of get your bearings there to see the area that we're dealing with. Loudon further elaborated that it is now divided into 3 compartments, those at each end containing peach and nectarines trained up under the roof on curved trellises, and the central compartment is a fig house. So we can see the Gothic Prospect Tower in the top corner there, the white building, and behind the trees to the left of it and running along, that's where the Earl's Drive pathway into the estate used to go, and we'll go up there in a minute. And if you follow that pathway, that leads you down to the top of the modern day haunted hollow. And in a guidebook from 1837, Ebenezer Rhodes wrote that within about half a mile of the house on the right is a conservatory ornamented with statues, busts and vases, and on the left a lake of water. Visitors should stop here their carriage and for a short time enjoy the scenery before them. It's a peep into a terrestrial paradise. So he would have been speaking as if he was travelling on that path at the other side of the trees here. So we're going to pop up there in a second. Okay, so this is my very bad artist's impression of how the missing glasshouse would have looked from across the Temple Lake. Probably would have been a little bit smaller looking, I would have thought, but it's just to give a general idea of sort of the position of where that missing conservatory would have been. And here is a picture of what I think captures that lost glasshouse, obviously circled in red. And towards the bottom left you've got the grand conservatories and other bits of the gardens, and then just down to the left of what I think is the missing glasshouse you've got the shimmer of the lake in front of it. And this is actually from a photo from 1921, so I think that's pretty decent evidence. And then if we look at this somewhat fanciful illustration from the 1830s, you can see the glasshouse circled in red again. Just up and to the right of that is the Gothic Prospect Tower. Then obviously down to the left you've got the grand conservatories and the pagoda and stuff like that. Obviously the pagoda was only built 3 tiers high instead of the 6, so that's why I say the illustration's slightly fanciful, but it does clearly show that there is a garden building that looks like a conservatory up near the Gothic Prospect Tower. So that's another piece of evidence. And in an 1870s guidebook it said that elegant columns of stone between the front sashes of this building impart to it an air of dignity and importance well suited to the commanding position it occupies. So the lake's on our left hand side and we're on what probably would have been the line of the old path. So by my reckoning we're just coming up to the top corner, and I think that conservatory would have been just ahead of us now, just at the top end of the modern day haunted hollow. So to the left you can't actually see through to the lakes, there's sort of trees in the way and shrubbery. But if we turn around, I think it would have been in this area here. And obviously in the years since you've had the Park Railway come through here, and now you've had all this flooring done for the haunted hollow, so all the remnants of sort of the foundations are probably gone now. So we can just see the lake through the trees here, and the possibly the Gothic Prospect Tower in the distance. So I'm coming from the other direction now. So if we walk down the path, that glass house wouldn't have been directly at the back of the lake here, it would have been slightly around the corner. So if we come around, this would largely have followed the old path, and the conservatory would have been just off the top corner up here. So like I say, pretty much would have been in this area up here. Like I say, this ground's been so disrupted in the years since that you're unlikely to find any remnants now. Maybe a little bit in this shrubbery and stuff up here, who knows. So there's the Prospect Tower, and if we turn around, this is the path that leads down to the haunted hollow, and as you can see it's got the original stone walls here on either side, so you can tell that it pretty much follows the old path. So if we move on slightly onto the next sort of range of missing glasshouses, this is the area sort of between the Grand Conservatory and the Gardener's Cottage, and here you can see some old steps which would have led up to the next glasshouse, which would be on this base that was obviously purposely constructed to hold the glasshouse on top, which would have been in this area here. And it actually would have had 4 smaller glasses running down this end, and then as we move up towards the back of this area where those shrubs and stuff are now, there would have been like one larger glasshouse, and I'll go up there and investigate a slight bit in a second. But as you can see, all these walls are purposely constructed around here. Okay, so if you look at the bottom right blue bubble, sort of cluster of little glass houses, that's where I've just walked up to on the last video. And then bottom left in the red, that's the Grand Conservatories. And then above that there's a gardener's bothy in red that's still there. And then right at the top there's the gardener's cottage that's still there. And the other stuff circled in blue, those are lost buildings. Well, lost glasshouses. Right, so just moving on to that base where so I would be basically standing in the middle of where there were glasshouses before that are gone now. And I came up here about 5 years ago and there was still remains of the stones and stuff from the buildings up here. And it looks like they're still here, so let's have a little look in these woods. And this is quite interesting actually. As you can see, still bits of rock in the floor and all remains of the coping stones and stuff like that. Can you see? So when these glasshouses have been destroyed for whatever reason, they've literally just dumped a lot of the rockwork up here. I mean, God knows what happened to the glass, but look at all these, and there's more down there as well and around. And if I turn around, so you can see the base through the trees up there where I was just. And if we move around, go to the back, this would have sort of been the containing wall at the back of this area. So you can imagine that bigger glass house at the back would have come up to this wall. And then here we've got sort of surviving ironwork. And I'm just guessing, but those probably could have been sort of iron across the top where there was where it was holding sort of glass or whatever. Possibly. And there's lots of them just on the floor and stuff, so obviously all the glass has gone, but there's still remnants of stonework and stuff. And obviously a lot of this video is going to be showing you maps and stuff, so you'll see this area on the maps that I'll show you as well. Oh, there's actually some writing on this one. Don't know what that means. What sort of I-R? You can see there's almost a bit of a walkway here as well on the floor. Possibly leading off the side of that conservatory in the past. So this is that base again. And incidentally, the old map that I'll be using to compare to the modern time is from sometime between 1880 and 1900. So let's move on to the next little missing glass house in this area.
Now, as we move on, you can actually see from this 1921 image that circled in red there's a now missing glass house directly behind the Grand Conservatory.
And then from a 1927 picture you can clearly see a range of glasshouses behind the Grand Conservatory. Right, so this is the one we've just looked at. We're going to continue past that as if it was on our right hand side. And then when you come to the bottom of this little path, some steps, and then this would lead on to the next glasshouse through here. You can see the how the path still exists. And we need to push through these branches. And then, as you can see, this one would have been directly behind the Grand Conservatory that's still there. So if you look on the map, it actually would have been in this area here, directly behind this end of the Grand Conservatory. Where there's not actually any evidence of stones or anything that I can see around here. If we move down, like I say, that's the Grand Conservatory just at the bottom there. But then that would have had a range behind us. So this area here would have been another glasshouse stroke conservatory. And obviously all of these would have been for growing certain fruits and vegetables or whatever. So you would have had one quite sort of large glasshouse here in a sideways U shape, and then there would have been another smaller one up the top, maybe where those shrubs are now. And again, if we look at this stereo view from the late 1800s, circled in red again, we can see these missing glasshouses behind the Grand Conservatory. And I'll just pop through this gap at the top of the area and see if there's anything just to our right by these shrubs, but I doubt it, to be honest. Yeah, so can't really see any remains of anything around here. They obviously cleared this really well. There's a piece of ironwork or something here in the floor. You can see that there. See that? It's just sticking out the floor. Okay, so I'm still sort of by those shrubs at the back of that last area we were looking at. And if we go onto the path down here, I'm just going to have a look at a couple of sort of gardening related buildings, and one of them's still in place but the other one's missing now. And you've probably seen this one before, but this is sort of like a gardener's bothy to just use for whatever the gardeners needed. So obviously this isn't a glasshouse, it's just for the gardener's use or whatever. So that's like I say, not far from the those missing glasshouses at all. But interestingly, there's a couple of stones near this body, and they look like they could have been sort of to hold statues or something in the past. You can see that one's quite shaped. So that might have been part of something to hold a statue in the past, with sort of part of it missing. It's the open door on the body. A lot of stuff dumped in here by the looks of it. And then moving on from that body, if we turn around and go back onto the path,
It appears that there was another building up on the left up here that's now missing, and I don't think it was a glass house, because on the map it hasn't got the sort of crisscross on it. Yeah, so carrying on up this path, you don't take the first left here, which is still sort of a pathway today through the gardens. Just around this corner here, to the left, there would have been another building. And as you can see, there's a gap on the side of the path, which would have been an entrance towards this little building. And that building would have been in this little pocket here. And as you can see in the background, you can see the top of the gardener's cottage, so you can see it was just over the path from the gardener's cottage. So there would have been another building here that's long gone, obviously. And again you can see sort of the retaining walls or whatever at the back. But there's nothing left of that now.
So yeah, that would have been the building circled in green there around the middle, and the next one we're going to look at is just to the right of that, circled in blue.
Now it's quite handy to have gone to that other lost building, even though it wasn't a glass house, because on the map it shows that it's pretty much opposite. So if we come up this path, it should be pretty much opposite the top of the path and to the left. So I believe there is another lost glass house just on this piece of grass here, just across. So where the ground slopes up there, across the bottom of here, I think that was a glass house as well. So you can actually see on the map there's a solid curvy line underneath where the glass house should be, and that is obviously this wall here that you can see curves at the front of it. So the glass house would have been across the top of it, and obviously those sort of trees and shrubs wouldn't have been there at the time. That would have been glass, well, a glass building.
And it's probably worth pointing out at this stage how close the gardener's cottage was to this missing glass house. So you got the gardener's cottage towards the top left, and then just down and to the right you've got this next missing glass house. And what's quite interesting is, either inside or just outside this glass house, there's an old water pump that's still in place, and that was by Bamford's, who would become JC Bamford, the excavator company that's located in Uttoxeter nearby.
So yeah, this bit of the wall where it sort of dips inside a bit, that was probably around where the centre of the glass house was. And I'm going to pop up there because there's something interesting in there which goes along with the glass house idea pretty well. Yeah, so if we go into these woods, you can still see there's bits of wall and stuff up here, and even a bit of metal in here. Yeah. Some kind of metal attachment down there. And if we go further along, you can see the floor is a little bit bare in here, as if something used to be here. And then if we go further along, there's actually an old water pump by Bamford's. I'll try and get a look at that for you. See? Bamford's chain pump. And that spout on the left where the water would have come out, so that would have supplied the glass house with all the sort of flowers and plants and stuff with water. And again, the remains of a wall or something at the back here. And I don't know if you can see, but that runs all the way across there. So you can actually see where the back of this glasshouse would have been. That's the back of the hand pump again. The wheel that you turn to get the water out. So yeah, I'd probably be coming out the side of that glasshouse now as we go along. And then just up this main path and then round to the right there'll be the gardener's cottage that you can see on the map as well at the top, circled in red. So if we go around, there you go, there's the gardener's cottage. So there would have been quite a complex around this little area of glasshouses and other gardeners' buildings. So yeah, basically that glasshouse would have sort of run straight across this ridge or plateau here in front of me, where I've just come out of. And incidentally, this building to the left was called the gunner's cottage, and that must have come along after this old map was produced. So for the next possible missing glasshouse, I'm on the actual level just below the Grand Conservatory that you can just see peeping over the top now. And in a few old drawings, it actually shows a glasshouse in this area here and the next level below. So I'm just going to check this out. And as you can see along the bottom here, there's actually some steps that look like they once led up into something. So I'm thinking, if that glasshouse was actually here, it would have been right in front of us here, and then the Grand Conservatory would have been on the next level above. And as you can probably see, where these two walls meet here, the wall in the middle and the one slightly to the right, they're actually made out of different materials. One's sort of more modern brick and the other one's old stone. So maybe if the conservatory was here, they wouldn't have minded having the brick at the back there. And looking for evidence across this wall, you can actually see what looks like sort of a very old hook here at the bottom. And then further along this wall, where it meets the next sort of curving brick wall, there's what looks like there used to be a room at the back here, an old doorway. That's completely sort of shut off now, that is. Next to the door again, there's sort of an old discarded base that looks like it could have been a base for an urn or a statue or something like that.
Yeah, so you can see from this drawing by J.C. Loudon from around 1833, where I've marked lost building stroke glasshouse. You can see the building there, but on the next level above there's a slightly smaller building, and then obviously above that you've got the Grand Conservatory, and it's on that middle level where we were just looking. And obviously I'll shortly be popping down to the next level to look at that larger lost building or glasshouse.
So yeah, along with sort of the drawings and what we can see here, it does look like there might have been an old conservatory here as well. So I mean, I wasn't too sure about it, but actually having a look at the area, I think a long time ago there might have been another conservatory here just below the Grand Conservatory. And now leaving here, I'm going to go to the next level below as well, because on another old drawing it looks like there might have been an old conservatory down there as well. So I'm just going to go down here and turn left, pop round the corner. So on the left hand side, that's the level that I've just come off, and we're just going to pop down here a bit further now. So as I was saying, there is an old glass house on a picture on this level here, and this is on the next level down from the one we've just seen and right in line with it. And as we can see in the wall, there's a little alcove at the back, which might have been sort of inside and at the back of a little glass house. And you can imagine they might have had sort of a big statue or something in there. And there's actually a little plinth on the floor still, if you look here. So that could well have been inside an old conservatory. And then if we come along to the right slightly, there's another entrance to a little room at the back. So again, that could have been linked with an old glass house. And you can actually see as well that the bricks are actually different as well here. So to the side they're a bit rougher here on the right hand side, and on the left they're cut a bit more cleanly. So yeah, this could well have been an old glass house, and I could be standing inside where it would have been now.
Okay, so let's have a look at a few illustrations. This first one is from J.C. Loudon again, but this one's from around 1834. And obviously you can see the building circled in red, and bits of the roof there even look a bit sort of Chinese in style, but we have to bear in mind with some of these old illustrations that there is a bit of artistic license at play, and sometimes an owner of an estate might have told a visitor that they were going to build a certain feature, and then the visitor would actually draw this feature in a painting or an illustration of what they thought it was going to look like when it was finished. So sometimes you do have to take the exact details on some of these earlier illustrations with a pinch of salt. And then we've got this picture from around 1840 by Samuel Rayner. And interestingly, that building that on the last picture looked like it might have been slightly Chinese in style has now taken on a classical look, sort of a classical Roman or classical Greek look. So I mean, either it changed in style, or it hadn't been built at all on the first one, or maybe there was a building there but both of the styles are a bit fanciful, and maybe the building never looked exactly like either of them. But the fact that we keep seeing these images with buildings in the same place probably tells you that there was actually an old garden building or glasshouse in that position. And apologies about the quality of this next image, but I couldn't get a decent quality copy of it. But anyway, it's by someone called J. Varley, and this was probably from the 1830s. And as you should be able to see though, even though it's bad quality, you should be able to see that we've got the grand conservatories at the top, and then you've got a smaller building on the next level below, and then again you've got that slightly larger building on the one below. So that's another illustration from back in the early 1800s that show these garden buildings or glasshouses below the grand conservatory. So yeah, I think that there probably was another glasshouse down here. So at some point or another, maybe not all at the same time, I think there was a glasshouse on this level and a glasshouse directly behind up on the next level, and then the grand conservatory right at the top. Okay, so now I'm moving out to the main gardens and I'm going to be having a little look behind the towers. Okay, so what can we see from the comparison between the new and the old maps? So if we look at the old map on the left hand side, in around the centre, where I've drawn 4 red lines coming downwards, those would have been our 4 missing glasshouses that I'm looking at the moment. And obviously you can see that these come off the back of the armoury and the picture gallery range of the towers. And then just below these missing glasshouses there would have been the kitchen gardens for the towers to supply vegetables and stuff for the house. And if we look on the right hand side at the modern map, you can see that this sort of area is taken now by the modern day driving school and David Walliams' world and all that type of thing. So when I go to the next bit, you'll see that I'm by the driving school, and I'll explain a little bit more. Okay, so from up here we're now where the modern day driving school kids ride is, as you can see. And if you refer to the map, there's like a tower, and you can see that to the left of the picture here. And then there's sort of a little sort of building bit running across from the right of the tower. And then as the level drops down to the next level, there would have been 2 smaller glasshouses running out from there, which would have come right out across where the track is here for the driving school, and pretty much would have come about that far out. And if you're interested, these buildings here, that would have been the Sussex smoking room and the billiard room. And the other side of those, that would have been the armoury. So if we look at this aerial image from around 1921, you can see that 3 out of the 4 glasshouses are still there. And that tower that I mentioned in the last clip would be just to the right of the largest glasshouse there. And then you've got the 2 smaller glasshouses to the right, which would have been protruding into the driving school where I was. But obviously the large one to the left of that little tower, obviously all these are missing now, but that large one, we can't actually see it from the bridge that I was videoing from, because there's trees and buildings in the way and stuff now, so even if it was there we wouldn't have been able to see it. But that just gives you an idea of how that was, and then you can see the kitchen garden below. So yeah, pretty much where the centre of the picture is now, you would have had 2 smaller glasshouses running out towards us.
and pretty much nearly as far as where the bridge is here. And then to the left hand side of the tower, that we can't see now because there's shrubs in the way, there would have been two larger glass houses that side, and they're both gone as well.
And so by 1927 we can see that from this aerial image that these glass houses no longer existed for whatever reason. And you can still see the kitchen gardens to the right hand side of this picture. Then this is from an old slide that I bought quite a while ago, and this is from the 1930s, and this clearly shows the outline of the two larger missing glass houses, of how they would have met the wall. And as they'd not been removed for very long by that point, it's very clear to see the clean brickwork against the dirty brickwork that was outside the glass houses. And this is quite a rare and interesting image. This is from an old stereo view that I own, and this would have been from sort of the late 1800s. And it's clearly labelled as a conservatory at Alton Towers, but it's not the house conservatory, and it's not the Grand Conservatory either. And I think it says the house conservatory on the label on the back of the stereo view. And so I think this is one of the two larger glass houses that we're just looking at the moment, that come off the side of the armoury and picture gallery area. So that's quite rare. Whilst you have a look at this image which shows where the old glass houses would have been compared to sort of the modern day, I'll try and recite from a book published in 1851 how William Adam describes the scene. Proceeding through the octagon room and picture gallery, we emerged suddenly by a side door into a splendid Gothic conservatory or flower gallery, 76 feet long by 16 wide, and here the sight was truly gorgeous. Beautiful climbing plants in full flower covered the bosses and finials. The border was one mass of brilliant colour. The enamelled vases of various patterns and hues vied with the flowers in vividness of colour. The enamelled vases and tiles of which this floor is composed were made at Mr. Minton's work, Stoke Potteries, and deserve to be generally known and introduced. Adjoining this conservatory and connected with it are three other plant houses, a stove, an orchard house, and greenhouse for New Holland plants. In front of these are two flower gardens separated from the ornamental vegetable garden by a cast iron railing, and the garden itself, 6 acres in extent, is in great part enclosed by a similar fence. It is closed by a noble terrace 300 yards long, terminated by the lofty flag tower, and other walks are terminated by towers also.
So basically all of Cloud Cuckoo Land, or whatever they call it these days, that would have been kitchen gardens for the house for growing vegetables and fruit and stuff like that. And then off to the left up here, where it used to lead into Coaster Corner, there was even another range of glass houses over there which have obviously gone. And we'll look at the map because obviously we can't get near there anymore. And incidentally, over in Coaster Corner over there, that's where they've got planning permission to build a new attraction that they've called Project Horizon, so might be opened up again one day.
Okay, so if we look at this map, the missing glasshouses that we're talking about at the moment are circled in red down towards the bottom in the middle, and we were just talking about the ones circled in green at the top right. So if you would have started up there and walked downwards, you would have walked through the kitchen gardens, and then you eventually would have got to a path where you would have turned right, and you would have gone past these new glasshouses circled in red. Then if you would have carried on past those up towards the left of the middle, that's the flag tower, which is still there these days, circled in blue. And in these images here, which compare the old map to the modern day, you can see the modern day Coaster Corner on the right, which is closed off now, and you can just see where there's lots of storage and stuff dumped and whatever. And you can compare that with the map on the left, which shows where the old glasshouses were, that obviously got swept away, 100 years ago or whatever it was. And like I say, the flag tower up to the top left of that corner. And when William Adam visited in around 1850, he actually mentions in his book that he saw these glasshouses when they were in the process of being built. Well, I think that concludes my video on the missing glasshouses of Alton Towers. I know it's a very, very niche subject, so I appreciate you sticking with me, and hopefully if you did, you found it interesting and maybe learned a couple of things that you didn't know from before. So again, thank you very much for watching, it's much appreciated, and I'll see you next time.